Made the grade going down to the stream down there a lot nicer. It was really rocky. It was hard to get my tractor even down there because it was so, especially if I had the backhoe on the back, or if I had the backhoe. And now it's a lot easier to get down there. So Silverpoint Homes, we chose them over Carolina Custom Homes. We kind of went to both those places and compared and talked to those people and got some prices from each of them. And we liked the feel better at Silverpoint Homes, and we worked with Josh over there, and we just had a better vibe, and the cost was a little better, but we added a bunch of stuff, so it might have run over. They were pretty comparable price wise. The one thing that Carolina Custom Homes was doing that Silverpoint doesn't do is the crawl space, the vapor barrier. Carolina Custom does that by default, so we're not going to do that. So we'll see how that goes. And when you're working with a modular builder like Silverpoint Homes in Greensboro, North Carolina, they show you houses, and there's prices on those houses as you look at them, and that includes the foundation. Ours is post and beam, and the house build and setting the house if they can get it there by their normal flatbed. But they'll do other things, like this is a pretty raw site, so it needs septic, it needs electricity, it needs water, and they'll do those things, and they'll have allowances for that. But there's so much, and I wanted to really control the timeline myself on these things, so I'm contracting that out myself, and doing extra grading and such on this property. So the septic is in right now, but you can see that these allowances are well, septic, grading, driveway, foundation over height, the house cat, if they can't get to the actual site where they're going to put the house, they have this large cat that they can put it on, and get it over. They have to transfer it from the truck to the cat, and just to know that there's these other allowances that go into getting this house actually built on your site, and those things could really drive up the price. And you just have to know that when you're looking at this base price, there's probably more prices or more costs that are going to go into building that house. In order to mitigate any surprises, I try to give as much information and diagrams as I can. For example, I'm drawing this site plan and showing them exactly where I want this house to be and where it is in relation to other things on the property. I also sent them elevations so they know that, this is a slope. So I want them to know exactly how many feet lower the back end of the front end is. There's a deck on the back, and how long those posts need to be. So there's a skirting all around the house, and you can see that the back end of the house is going to need more skirting than the front. It's one of those things that they don't give you a automatic price for up front because they're not sure, but then you can help really iron out exactly how much skirting is going to be needed if you go out and get some elevations while you're still discussing things as far as hammering down prices. I also provide electrical diagram. I mean, they have their own electrical diagrams, and I started out just giving them where I wanted all these outlets and everything to be, but then Josh actually sent me the real diagram, so then I could just augment this one and add the ones in red where everything that I added, where I wanted new outlets, if I wanted a ceiling fan where there wasn't one, or if I wanted a way to control ceiling fans, and all the media outlets everywhere that there's going to be a TV. You just want to make sure that you're visualizing yourself in your house and where you want to plug things in and where everything's going to be as far as switches and lighting and all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to do the back and forth after you sign the contract, because every change, once it gets to that, especially once it gets to that factory floor, those changes are just going to cost. So mitigate that as early as possible, and just really hammer down and take the time to think about exactly where you want everything to be. We probably spent about a month going back and forth with hammering things down. This is before you sign the contract. And, they're willing to work with you on everything. They want you to sign the contract. So you are saying, I want this here. I want this outlet here. I want, this is the elevation. So what's happening here. The septic's going to be this many feet from the house. And, no surprises before the contract signed. I just can't emphasize that enough. You really just want to make sure there's no surprise. Yeah, and I have an expectation that things are going to move more quickly because everything is so outlined and cut and dry. So let's get to actually where we are with the process and how things are moving. We're 2 months post signing the contract, and yeah, it is moving a little slower than I anticipated. There's a I'll show you. Let's talk through what their expectations are. So here are their expectations from Silverpoint that they communicate to the customer. And the initial phase, that's pre-contract time. That's when I was going back and forth and really hammering out everything I wanted in the house. And now we're in the lender process phase, which is approximately 2 months. And the contract is signed. We put our money down. We did that on December 2nd, 2025. And we haven't really even had a chance to review our colors and selections yet, and permitting. We're still waiting. There's a step in here that's not listed, which is get the engineered diagrams, and we expected those initially. We expected to get that before the end of 2025, and now we're into January 23rd of 2026. So that is running much later than we thought. When we initially talked to Silverpoint Homes, they told us that the what really delays this phase is the lender going back and forth with the bank and trying to get money. But we've had our funding before we even started this whole process. Before we even signed the first contract, we could have cut them the check, but they so that is not what's causing the delay in this process. This is all on Silverpoint's end, and I've reached out to them, and we're back and forth. It's an open communication. I do enjoy working with them, but it is a concern to slip so early in the process, and I'm trying to follow up with them to say, well, how can we expedite the next stages of this process at the current rate that I'm going with the septic and the well and the electric. I don't see that as a delay on my side. So there's no reason from my perspective why we shouldn't get this house done in time, but seeing this initial slip is a little concerning. Well, and you can see right after this stage is production stage. And the first step in production stage is release home for production following the loan close. But that's not a stage for us really. So I did reach out to them and say, if you guys want the check, there's no reason to delay production because of money, because we can just send you the check. But they didn't confirm that they wanted me to do that. So obviously we don't have that production date yet because we don't have the engineered drawings, but I'm hopeful we can make up some time in the next stage. And I'll have another update once we move further along in the process. Thanks for following.